The Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States represents 79 countries and over 1 billion people. A year ago, the group known as OACPS was transformed into an international organization, with Angola's Chikoti as Secretary General. That at a time when the world was facing new challenges. But we'll come to that in a moment. Mr. Secretary General, thank you for being with us. You started as an informal group and today you're an international organization. Why the change of status?
The demands of time and the pressure of underdevelopment meant that the summits, the 8th, the 9th summit, felt that the organization should become an international organization after Cotonou and at the signing of the post-Cotonou. So the heads of state felt that developing countries had accumulated quite a lot of important experience in their relationship with Europe. It was this track record that the heads of state wanted to maintain and ensure that by becoming an international organization, we would maintain the relationship that we have had for several years with the European Union. But at the same time, we would also become an international organization and we would maintain the relationship with other international partners in a more multilateral perspective. But keeping at the core the essential objectives of the 79 countries that we represent. That is to say, the fight against poverty, the fight for economic and social development, and also to ensure that environmental issues become more and more important in our agenda.
In April, you signed this new partnership agreement with the European Union. What does it change and when will it be implemented?
So, what changes now is that the agreement that involves the same countries has been divided into 3 regions. The regional dimension changes, bringing the realities of each region closer together in terms of cooperation. While some members of the OACPS, which are small islands where the challenges of the environment are increasingly critical and therefore are a central issue, other countries face some political instability, for example, on the African continent. Others are more interested in trade or industrial development issues. All these specificities were taken into account to ensure that, in addition to having a single agreement, we have 3 protocols that specifically address the reality of each region.
Your 2030 agenda has ambitious goals: poverty eradication, economic, social and environmental development. But could the pandemic jeopardize these goals?
I don't think it does necessarily call into question. I think, to some extent, it can also facilitate the rethinking. I think that when you look at the Millennium Goals with the 2030 agenda, most of the time the countries have not managed to locate the issues of environmental impact very well. And in our fight against poverty, we often did not take into account the environment in which we live and what is really the dimension of the concern that was placed in our programming. Now, with the 2030 agenda, it is noticeable that most countries are understanding that it is necessary to better coordinate in order to meet these goals. In fact, the pandemic itself will also imply better human behavior, because, until now, we have probably all been a little irresponsible. It could probably delay some things, but it could probably speed up others, because we are becoming more and more aware that we have to create a healthy global environment before we can move on to other, possibly important issues.
antes que possamos caminhar para outras questões eventualmente importantes.
For my last question, you've also stressed that you're betting, as the rest of the world is, on the fight against climate change through Clima SA, with the support of the European Union. What is this programme?
This program
essentially aims for countries to focus more and more on issues that have to do with major changes, namely typhoons that radically affect many of the islands that we represent, the issues of drought, floods that usually unexpectedly affect large communities, involve deaths, destruction of property, and displacement of populations. All countries are more dedicated to environmental issues, and they also have access to funding for all the initiatives they can create to develop prevention policies for the future.
Todas as iniciativas que eles possam ter para fazerem políticas de prevenção para o futuro.
Mr. Secretary General, thank you for being with us. Until next time.
Obrigado.